Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bitcoin News Show right here on the World Crypto Network. We have an amazing show for you guys today. Thanks so much for joining us from around the world, whether that's nighttime or daytime. It's daytime over here, but we're excited to have you guys here. We have a lot of exciting things to talk about. We have some very professional people here today, guys. Not exactly your Bitcoin insiders today. We're going to have some people that are doing some very interesting things with Bitcoin and blockchain, and I want to get their opinions on a lot of different things on the goings on here of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as we experience new all-time highs today yet again on this show, ladies and gentlemen. Really excited about that. Over $11,000 on one across the board here, so almost $12,000. I think we might hit 12,000 during the show. So definitely, guys, if you like what you're seeing, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe. We're happy to have you. So without further ado, let's introduce these guests today, these panelists that I'm super proud to have here on the World Crypto Network. Let's introduce first Mr. Austin Engler, a crypto trader and fellow content creator on the show today, guys. Austin, how you doing?
Hey, man, thanks for having me today. I'm doing great. I'm seeing prices that are tremendously high, but I think that we might have some prices going a little higher. I'm excited though. It's a good time for cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin especially. I have everybody asking me questions about Bitcoin recently.
Absolutely, man. You bet. So very, very, very cool. Let's introduce Evgeny, the managing director at Cybertrust. How are you doing today? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, man, and what you're doing in the space?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Vortex. So, I'm managing director and one of the co-founders of Cybertrust, and we are pioneering concept of crypto securitization. That's basically like a term that helps to legitimize Bitcoin. It also helps to bring in institutional investors into the sector. And my background, with my partner, we started several businesses successfully. Before that, I started Moscow office for Boston Consulting Group. I worked at KPMG and also in Salomon Brothers investment banking. So I have a lot of institutional background. And now, over the last 2 years, we've been really heavily trading crypto, involved in crypto, cross-border arbitrage, and we've been very, very excited. We've been promoting crypto to large scale, private equity funds, private family offices and the likes.
Awesome, man. Yeah, spread the message of crypto. That's really awesome. Excited to get your opinions on the topics today. Then joining us as well is Mr. William Santiago, the crypto token analyst at WKSIT.com. And of course, guys, we'll have all their links in the show notes, so definitely check those out. William, how you doing today, man? Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, doing great. Thanks, Jeffrey, for having me on your show. It's great. Just a background, I'm a cybersecurity network analyst for different banks and institutions here in Curacao and in the Caribbean as well, but mostly in Curacao and San Martin. And I've been in that industry since 2001. In 2011, I discovered Bitcoin. I joined during that time. I also joined the central bank doing their infrastructure. So on my off time, I've been working on this new innovation and studying Bitcoin and also mining, and I've been all over the place and looking at the security side because that's my background. It's mostly firewalls, cybersecurity, and all that stuff. That's mostly my background. I have a company that started 2013, 2014. Not much action there, but I'm hoping that I'm going to get some traction. And recently, the topic is just growing because of the price. So being in the central bank, there's a lot of regulation talk. A lot of the financial institutions are looking at it, and they're asking questions, and they're looking at me as the expert. So I'm changing careers as we speak. So I'm moving towards a department that specializes in payment and trying to help. We'll talk about it, but basically there's three basic pillars of the banking and just to enable the 21st century e-commerce activity here in the Caribbean. And I've been in touch with Barbados and with Aruba. So it's getting hot, and this is a very hot area to work at in terms of regulation and central banks because the amount of countries in a small geographic area gives it a benefit. So that's basically my idea.
Awesome, man. Yeah, it seems everybody's going full-time crypto, so that's
right.
really cool. Really cool to hear. Awesome, William. All right, guys. So let's get right into the topics then, if we shall. So thanks again, guys, for joining us. We have over 513 live viewers already before we even get started with the topics. So thanks again so much for joining, guys. Let's go ahead and get right into it. First, let's just ask William. William, so let me ask you, William, are we in a bubble? And what are your thoughts on that? Because everybody wants to know: are we in a bubble?
Well, we're looking at the price, and most of us look at it, within 1 month, 2 months, 3 months span, and you see these huge spike, and you start looking further back, and you see that it just still keeps going up like a hyperbolic bar. But then you step away to 2013, and you see more or less, and you start zooming in that area, you see the same thing. So bubbles, to me, they're more like a natural way of the market correcting itself. You compare it to stocks like Facebook and Amazon and all these others. They went through the same type of ups and downs. So are we in a bubble? I don't think so. I think there's still potential. There's so many technical innovations. That's because I'm not a trader, so I don't go in and start trading and looking at all these. I'm looking at the actual technology. I started by reading the white paper and then comparing what the banking in terms of security, what they use, and then I say, well, this is exactly what they're using in this white paper. It's the same technology, same protocols. So looking forward, next year you see all these innovations, all these coders, and they're just chugging along and just innovating and providing updates on the GitHub repository. So you see there's action there, and there's things are going to be delivered. And when things get delivered, the price keeps going up. People want more of all those beautiful products that are coming down the pipe. So that's
absolutely, man. Absolutely, very cool. Yeah, I mean, it's getting crazy out there. People keep calling Bitcoin a bubble, but I think as we'll discover in this conversation, it might not be there. So let's go ahead and ask Evgeny. What is your thoughts on crypto and Bitcoin? Are we in a bubble right now? And there's a lot of people that seem to think we are. So I'd like to get your thoughts on this. What do you think?
Yeah, thanks. So just a couple of things, right? I think number one, starting with the fact that in 1999, when Nasdaq was at the peak, the market cap of Nasdaq was, and I was working at Salomon at that time in Silicon Valley, it was $5.3 or $5.5 trillion. And none of them made money, at least I don't know, 95% of those companies, right? So, right now the market cap of crypto is 320 billion. So relatively, it's just the beginning, right? Fundamentally. That said, I don't think technology is here, but it will be probably. And we're seeing development, very rapid development of technology, and it's certainly extremely promising and very cool. But majority of it is not here, so it's going to be disappointments. Next year, it will be a lot of legal risks. I think everybody that can get sued, they will get sued, right? And that would create not very good, image in general. That said, it's good. Maybe it should not go so quickly, right? Because if we pace ourselves, we have like a 5 year of really cool industry maturing over time, as opposed to just trying to blow up, get pole dancers in, and get 3,000% return, and it's just abnormal to go to central bank and say it's 1,000% return, guys. For last year. It's 1,081 or something for our fund, and they're like, it's just magnitude difference, right? I mean, that shocks them.
Absolutely.
Question: we are not in the bubble. I don't think we are fundamentally, but we might get carried away short terms, right?
Yep. I mean, this is global, right? So it should be, in theory, pretty easy to go ahead and to top, right? To have these blow off tops, to continue to have these over and over, to go over exaggerate because of the amount of people that are in it. There just can't be enough intelligence spread that thin. People just the dumb money just keeps coming in, right?
Well, but and keep in mind, institutional money will also come in the period of the next 12 months. Right now, there's a lot of barriers there that are getting eliminated, but that will also come, and of course, you need to sell them as well. It's not as easy, as it looks, but it will eventually come there as well, and that would add a lot of money right? Much more than we have right now.
And to add to the offshore, you got the offshore part, the Panama Papers, the Caribbean, those Paradise Papers. You know, the people, those institutions that are trying to evade the taxes, or not evade the taxes, but to minimize their tax signature. They're looking, okay, where this is not going to work where we have now. Where do we go? And they're looking at this. Well, you know, it's not completely mature, but if I can move a percentage of my portfolio in there, and that's exactly what's going to happen, as you said. You know, when these floodgates starts to open. Yeah.
Yeah, and for them it's never like everything, right? They would do like zero, like we discussed it with sovereign wealth fund in Middle East, 0.1% of their treasury bills exposure, and we say we can denominate it in treasury in you know, your T-bills in Bitcoin terms through a synthetic product, and you have the same risk of treasury bills, you know, same exposure, but just in Bitcoin terms, you know, 0.1%. Guys, try. They're like, yes. You know, show us, you know, how it does, you know, how it works exactly legally, all of that. But for those guys, they would want to do it properly, completely legally, right? No, I mean, they would pay all taxes. They don't want to hide anything. They just want a proper, legit solution. And this money is also there, and there's a lot of them, right? And as we know, and as we discussed, you know, in my book, right? You know, the old system is coming apart, right? There's a new system that has been developed. And everybody understands the financial sector is in a really problematic situation. So diversification of the purchasing power to digital asset makes a lot of sense. So it just needs to be, for them, properly done, and all the barriers that exist today should be eliminated.
Yep.
It's basically, you know, classic economics, supply and demand. We have very little supply, and there's a ton of demand from the entire world. It's the entire world that wants to get into this, not just one or two countries. It's every single country wants to get into this. And the supply, the people that own Bitcoins, they don't want to sell their Bitcoins. They have a specific price. I think I saw in some article that 90% of people will sell after it's over 195,000. Well, if we're at $200,000 per Bitcoin, that would give us a market cap right around gold's valuation. And there's a lot of people that think that this might be bigger than gold's valuation, and by tenfold. And that's why I think that the bubble talks can happen, but I think that it's going to prove those untrue.
Yep, indeed. Very interesting stuff, guys. And, you know, I think I'm with you. I mean, we have many trillions of dollars in derivatives. We have huge debt to GDP ratios around the world. We have constant money printing. And, you know, and people are like, and then you say, you know, Evgeny, you say we got to pace ourselves. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. I think people are going to look at the current system. They're going to look at crypto, and they're going to be like, eventually at one point, all right, I'm going all in, right? At some point, they have to do that just to hold this asset that's not correlated with the rest of this crazy crumbling financial system, right?
Yeah. Even if you're partially right, that's still going to be a lot, right? But yeah, some go all full in, some you know, some pace themselves, but. You know, in the end of the day, even the Federal Reserve Bank, they said it's future. Like, they openly admitted it to everyone. So I think they also know this, right? They kind of have to change, and it's a good change, right? It's a change for good, right? And you know,
well, I definitely see it's a good change because it's a change against inflation, and that anything to get rid of inflation sounds good for me, at least for the
centralization.
Yes, centralization.
That comes with that.
Absolutely. So awesome answers. Very cool stuff, guys. Let's go ahead and move on to the next topic, unless anybody else has anything to say on here.
It's okay.
Nope. Okay, cool. So we have over 750 live viewers, guys. Thanks so much for joining us, and thank again the guests, guys, for joining. You know, believe it or not, I don't actually pay these people to come. They come on their own volition, people, and we really thank them for their time, giving us their time on this Sunday. So let's go ahead and move to the next topic. Well, let's go ahead and start with Austin. Austin, maybe you can give us your thoughts. I'm always randomizing the order too, guys, just so you know. We try to make sure everybody can get their opinion here. Austin, what is your opinion here on the U.S. moving to criminalize non-disclosure of cryptocurrency? Because in addition to this, we also recently just had the Federal Reserve issue a warning You know,
So I,
originally, well, real quick, because originally, remember what Evgeny said was correct. The Federal Reserve, did say, hey, this has the potential, right? But now, just recently, they issued a warning to say, hey, we're looking at this. We may have to do something. And then now we have, of course, the Senate bill S-1241, in addition with other bills that are simultaneously happening around the world. So go ahead, Austin. Sorry.
So yeah, no problem. I definitely think that they need to do something. They need to give us a little bit more clarity. I think that everyone should be at least keeping track of their transactions, especially if they're moving around between Bitcoin and altcoin, because there will be a instance where a country like the US all of a sudden says, hey, we need to tax every transaction. We want this retroactive. And I think that that's also going to put a little bit of downward pressure. I think that might be a point where we have another one of these 25 or 30% pullbacks in price. And it's going to create a little bit of FUD, as everyone calls it, fear, uncertainty, and doubt for a little bit of time. And then we're going to go up higher because it's going to give a chance for new money to get into Bitcoin and cryptos. But I think that at least a little more clarity. I heard the Federal Reserve chairman said that Bitcoin and cryptos wasn't just yet big enough. Also, there was talks about him saying that it wasn't big enough for them to really pay attention to for the most part. He said that. So it's kind of hard to say. We're getting a lot of like new information, but there's also this a lot of gray area, I would say, still. And I'd like to see a lot of that clarified, especially as a trader. We have profits in trades and we're up and it's the end of the year. We need to know if we're going to get in trouble, for taxes or whatnot. So that's my opinion.
Absolutely. All right, let's go with William next. William, what are your thoughts on this crazy?
I do agree.
1241.
I do agree with Austin. I mean, it's got to be pragmatic regulation and clarity. Most of these investors are also there's a big chunk of them that are not standing on the sidelines because they don't have clarity on what are the rules of the game. Once you establish the rules of the game, then and again, these rules have to be like in a soccer match. You can't have 6-7 referees for a match where you only have a few players. You can't have that because then the game doesn't work. So clarity, be pragmatic about it, but you have to have these type of regulation, because remember the citizens. These regulations reflect what the citizens of that country or that jurisdictions want, and if they're not delivering in terms of the regulation, then you're going to have only the bad players get in, and then people get hurt. So that's one of the things that I do agree. It will open the door. It might be a slowdown at first, like FUD, but it will eventually allow more people to legitimately get in and start be a little more confident and realizing there's a risk, but at least, hey, there's a risk with certain rules. I played by the game, I lost. Okay, let's move on.
I'd like to see a Bitcoin wallet opened by the Fed or the IRS, so we could pay, the IRS their.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And hey, then they'll actually make some money and maybe lower our debt ceiling, right?
That would be nice. That would be interesting.
If they use their brain, they might do something like that. So we'll see if that happens.
That would be interesting to see. We obviously know that the Federal Reserve is, of course, looking at this stuff. So we shall see what they're going to do with it. Evgeny, what are your thoughts on this so far? On the 1241, and then of course this simultaneous bills being trying to pass around the world.
Yeah, it was first in China, right? If you remember, like a sequence of events on legal-wise, and everybody was afraid not only for exchanges, and we actually lost. We had exchange in China as our group, but then everybody was afraid that mining will be next, and then I think the next year, I tell you the truth, unfortunately, sadly, is going to be like a year of legal ICO disasters, right? And the Tezos will be the story. As a cool technology, but very, very, I think, sad story. So all those guys that really kind of like messed up on legal stuff and did a Delaware structuring or US structuring, or they just not thoughtfully did what they did. there will be a lot of lawsuits, right? Especially if things go down as they have. But yeah, I think, I'm not that optimistic, actually, honestly. It would be a cool idea for Fed to do that. They won't probably never do that next year. Well, at least next year, right? But they will sue a lot of people, right? Or at least the market will, right? So it's like, I was at the conference in Washington. I was sitting on this panel with a bunch of lawyers, and all they discussed is like how to sue people, right? That was, the entire conference was about that. I was like, guys, think about technology too. And they're like, well, it's it's crazy.
Yeah, the regulation is going to get a little crazy. And there's a lot of people like CoinSender and other organizations that are hopefully trying to minimize that and really provide some kind of soft touch regulation. I hope we can look forward to something like that, because there is going to be an insane amount of innovation, whether the laws allow it or not.
I agree, but listen, there's another bomb I actually want to disclose on your channel. Everybody is so excited about ETFs coming to the market, right? As you know. SME, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, which is a huge corporation, $40 billion market cap, right, is launching Bitcoin futures. And even today, I was at this event, and everybody's like, oh, there'll be so much demand coming in, but there'll be zero demand. Because the way futures that are settled via fiat pool, and if you read how they did it very stupidly. They have like this pool of pork belly traders and orange juice traders, all committing guaranteed fund in fiat, at which they settle all the contracts, and they're adding Bitcoin, very volatile contract, to that pool of money, which is going to blow up, right? I mean, next year. I mean, just 100% probability that will. The question is duration. So, and everybody expecting that some miracle, there will be demand for Bitcoin. There's no Bitcoin underlying, futures contract. It's settled fiat, on a date. None, right? So, and people are expecting that, and I'm just kind of wondering, okay, will we have, pullback because of that? Because everybody's running out, there will be no demand there for, Bitcoin.
Well, let me ask you then too as well, because there's going to definitely be a demand to long Bitcoin, I think, there in the futures contracts. But also, let me ask you, what about Nasdaq? Because Nasdaq is going to have futures, and I don't know if that's going to be settled in cash or Bitcoin. But then, of course, we have Ledger X options market that is settled in Bitcoin. But what about the Nasdaq? Do you think on Wall Street? Do you think what do you think about that?
I do not know their product. I know SME product very well, and there's a lot of debates right now in the professional community that is going to blow up because they just structured badly. And but sure, even we are looking to use that.
But by blow up, do you mean like the Bitcoin price is going to go higher, and then that's going to?
So you have to understand, like, trade, and by blowing up, I mean some traders, like whale traders, they will abuse it. That's what I mean, and they will clean out this pool of money. And the reason for that is that it's very simple. You have a very established market, which is old market, right? And they trade. It's properly done. It's probably working, and it really does a lot of good things for different growers, right? It has value in it. So the way this market works is that there's a pool of market makers that basically make bets between each other. And the way they guarantee is that they do daily margin calls, right? They daily add the balance so to the pool of capital, right? To which they basically, counterparty settle everything against. And right now, this pool consists of all those futures to which they're just adding Bitcoin. They're not creating a separate pool. They're adding Bitcoin futures to that pool. The volatility of future contracts, right? It's been very stable commodities. They've been around for quite a long time. There's been a lot of manipulation there, and they've been cleaned. They're adding Bitcoin there, right? So
yeah. So I think the concern here is that we have all these stable markets that have been there for centuries, right? Like pork bellies. And then you're saying they're adding Bitcoin to that exact same pool of liquidity, which with the crazy volatility that Bitcoin has, that might do some interesting things.
Imagine the day where US says all tokens are securities. All of a sudden, Poloniex doesn't work anymore, Kraken doesn't work anymore, Bittrex doesn't work anymore, right? Because they cannot be selling securities. They will try to adjust, whatever. What happens to the market, right? It's going to be like I don't know.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. They're not going to carpet all ICOs and securities. They're going to go, and they already said that they're going to go one by one. But going back to the CME,
just assigning probability, right? Like it's not a zero probability, right?
That's true. But going back to the CME, if the CME puts these futures tools in place, wouldn't the ETF follow, right? Aren't they waiting for that marker to get in?
We are waiting for it. We have like an ETF registration waiting.
Right. So once you go live or the ETFs go live, wouldn't that be good for Bitcoin in terms of the ETFs themselves, not the CME, but
absolutely, for adoption purposes, right? Because then we will have like a tool to go to the retail market and say, guys, this is Bitcoin, and they're like, what is Bitcoin? And then you explain to them what Bitcoin is. That's it's a legal thing. For adoption, for sure, but for supply demand calculation, right? It doesn't, because it's settled against the guy.
It wouldn't help out the supply demand calculation of Bitcoin, because you're adding more volume just outside off of the chain. Basically, it's just trading off the exchange.
Right. Exactly. Like, you have to understand, we also do securitization in Cybertrust, and that's what we're pioneering. And our securitization, we actually go to the market, we actually buy Bitcoin, we take this private key, we put it in a Swiss ex-military bunker in Deltalis. We use Xata as a technology provider. It's magnetic wave protected, whatever. But it's a private key, right? Like, it's actual private key that is owned by you as a holder of securitized global note, Bitcoin global note in our case. But the future contract does not have that, right? It does not have the underlying asset. It's the same derivative, but different.
So something like what they're doing to gold, right?
But they're good gold and bad gold, right? There are funds that
in terms of the price
give you gold, right?
You can already go on the stock exchanges and get GBTC, and that looks like it's trading at like $15,000, because that trades at 1/10 of the Bitcoin price, and you can literally go and buy that on any stock exchange account that you have. Scottrade, E-Trade, TD Ameritrade, all those guys, Schwab. GBTC is the stock, and people are trading that very actively now, and they can get their hands on that already. So an ETF isn't anything. I don't think that's going to bring anything new to the table. That people
You will do like 2x BTC, 3x. You will do like treasury. You will do a lot of cool shit. It will. But you're right. And in the end of the day, GBTC is. But the only thing with GBTC that you didn't mention is like people have to overpay 60% for it.
Yeah.
The price of Bitcoin. A little nuance. But that's true.
That's predictable.
Because they make money anyways, right? Everything going up.
All right, well, let's go with William here. Just let's let you finish your points, William, on CME and your thoughts on the CME and the Nasdaq futures, and maybe the ETFs to come after that.
Yeah, I think it's just gonna maybe I'm not good at pricing or futures or how the mechanism works, but in terms of the average person out there that wants to invest, it's just gonna increase that demand. Just the understanding of what are you talking about Bitcoin? Just that right there, that conversation starting is enough, and it's going to do it. It's going to also force the regulators to, hey, there's these mechanisms that are going in there. We need to regulate, and it takes them more serious. So there's seriousness going into the market. Let's put it that way.
Awesome. Austin, did you have anything else to add on this topic?
Yeah, I feel like the regulators and anyone that's trying to criminalize cryptos just needs to realize that there's a lot of people with cryptocurrencies now, and it's kind of like slapping us all in the face for trying to invent our own style of money. And they might do that, though. They might try to do that. So it'll be something that I'm definitely going to keep my eye on. Especially with the price moving up so high. I think it's very important to watch the price, and whenever that news drops, I think watching the price closely will be what I'll be doing on a trading perspective.
Awesome. And then Evgeny, did you have anything else you wanted to add on this topic? Oh, you're still muted.
Yeah, on regulation or legitimate Bitcoin?
On just the CME and the Nasdaq.
Well, I think eventually, somebody will clean that pool, and make a lot of money, and then they will probably fix that, or Nasdaq may fix that, but it's a right move, it's a move in the right direction. It's just badly done, unfortunately. But yeah, it's a right move, and market will evolve, through mistakes, and it's okay, right? As long as we endure and improve, and try to create different things, right?
Very true, very true. All right, so then we can move on to, I think, the next topic here. I'd like to thank the 954 plus viewers joining us. Really excited to have you guys all here. Thanks to the guests again for being here, and thanks to everybody in the chat, having some conversations over there. It's always fun in the troll box, I assure you, people. Love it. Let's go ahead and move on. If you guys, if you could please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Giving us a thumbs up helps us reach more people's feeds, and more people's gets us into more people's YouTube homepages. So thanks so much for that, guys. Let's go ahead and move on to our other topic. Let me ask, we'll start with William here again. Actually, we'll start with Evgeny this time. Let me ask you, what are your thoughts on ICOs right now? Because we have seen like a big slowdown just recently heading into September and October with the price rise of Bitcoin. And I was wondering, like, how are you using ICOs right now? And what are your thoughts on them and their future? The near future.
Yeah, it's I think it's a madness, right? That's the only word that comes to mind, because it's just too crazy, right? Everything's crazy, and we are involved, as you know. I mean, we also decided to do so we decided to securitize, to tokenize the securitization, because why should people pay 60% to Grayscale? Let's just tokenize the same thing, but make everybody do the securitization for all different types of currencies, not only Bitcoin. So that was the idea that we're developing anyways, right? And we've been developing for 2 years. So, but I think if I had a choice, I would not have never done it probably now, right? That knowing what I know, because not only demand cooled off, the entire supply side is just so bad, right? Like, it's so unprofessional, just too. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to swear, right? Here, but it's just madness, right? It's unbelievable what's happening. There's so much dirty stuff there that all of it, like, it's like a lot of risks for you to do ICO now, I think, right? Like, you have to realize that.
So there's
paybacks for whatever happened, right?
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So there is, like, so you're saying there is a bunch more things you have to pay attention to now. Like, I don't think, would you say you wouldn't really want to start an ICO right now with at least like $500,000 in lawyer funds? I would say, right? Something like that.
Well, unfortunately, it's like unpredictable, the lawyer funds, right? Like, absolutely unpredictable, because they will heat up as well, and the lawyers would, like the good lawyers, they'll make killing off of you, right? And poor guys that did structurings in Delaware, like Tezos, I mean, I'm sorry, right? They're going to be destroyed, right? They did this $50 million deal, which looks shady, or at least not explainable, right? Transfer to Delaware. Oh,
not good.
Yeah,
okay.
Like,
very interesting stuff.
Anything about like litigation, and it's
yeah, the
right?
Tezos case. The Tezos case is a big deal, and I think it's going to be a landmark case.
Bad, right? Such a bad thing, because they're so cool guys, right? Cool technology, cool, like philosophy behind them. It's so bad, what is happening, and they should really take it very serious. And they're not even, I think, taking it as serious as they should, at least from how I can take a look at it, right, from outside.
Well, I sure hope they're taking it serious. Go ahead, Austin.
I wish they would reach out to some of these guys and say, hey, we're going to create some sort of division here that's going to handle cryptocurrencies and help you guys all at least follow regulations here, get you guys registered, maybe just lower the registration fees, especially to get this all taken care of. And then going forward with new companies, throw out some sort of, put your fees back on at 50,000, whatever the fee is to register for the SEC, out here in the US at least. That would be nice, something like that. Help these ICOs out, because I think that they're at least legitimate companies out here, like some of the advertising ones and some of these other ones that like EOS and stuff like that. Like, we like to trade those. I love to trade these things because they're actual companies. They're cryptocurrency companies that are doing well. They're building projects, and they just need some help and clarity from the government as well. And if the government can reach out a hand and at least, show us something. The IRS, there's tons of money in the IRS to take two agents and actually just go out there and reach out to some of these ICOs.
Next year, IRS unfortunately will reach in a different way, right? Because we know for stats, there's like 50 people or like 100 people applied that they have Bitcoin, and there's like 600,000 American accounts at Coinbase, right? Like less than 100 applied for IRS, and there's a lot more holders, right? I mean, and I IRS is stating that like they're like, hey, that looks strange, you know?
Yeah, and I think that I would really hope that before the end of the year that they come up with something fast for everybody. But, you know, and we do have a whole month left, so they could possibly do that. And if they were to do that, I think we might see, you know, a sell-off in cryptocurrencies at that point. And ICOs are fun to trade and everything, but if Bitcoin gets hit, I think the entire market is going to get hit. So, you know, even trading is going to be difficult in that type of market. So,
all right, well, let's get William's opinions on this. I know you've been patiently waiting there, William. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, you know, ICOs, I see them more like they're the tokens. They're the ICO. In next year, in the coming years, you're going to see forking as different forks or different coins are going to be falling in that same thing. And like Austin said, these are companies. Some, you know, a lot of them are trying to get a leg up. You know, they want to build some products and big. So again, I think it's a Wild West. It's the regulators are on it. I mean, they're going to get. They just have to. They're completely understaffed, or they're going to be understaffed. They need to get on the ball. They got to start regulating in a very pragmatic and very easy way. Provide some basic guidance. Very quickly, because if not, you know, these ICOs are going to be in limbo, and more people are going to get hurt. And not only the users or the investors, but also these startups that are just trying to start a brand new business in this ecosystem, that they're going to go down the dark path and get hurt. So I see regulators, and from my end, I mean, I've been following the Coin Center in Washington D.C. Jeffrey Brito. And he has a lot of good people there working in that center, and they have a lot of good documentation. And one of them that I'm using a lot in my meetings and presentations with people in the banking system, and explain to them ICO. And it's basically, you have to take each ICO, each token, whatever you want to call it, and then put it in this specialized chart to see, is it a token? Is it going to be used for that same token is going to be used to purchase services and products? If not, well, it's an investment. Are you like one of them is the SAFT contract from Filecoin, which is at first is an investment because the product is not done. But in the future, the product will be done, and it'll become a decentralized coin that you use to fund, to sell your storage on your PC. You know, that's eventually it cannot be regulated, but at the beginning it is. So all these things you have to look at them case by case, and that means more work, more people to look at it, and more people that understand this stuff. That's the other thing. You could put a lot of regulators that are from the 15, 20 years ago, and they're just going to slow the machine down. So you gotta get good people in there and start putting the rules of the game, and put referees in these games, and let's start playing the game. That's it. That's how I see it.
Go ahead, Austin.
Like William said, there are going to be some awesome companies that will come out of some of these ICOs. So there's definitely a lot of money to be made on the trading side for ICOs as well. So that's why I'm trying to track all my trades now, because I want to be prepared for those regulations to come into place, at least the best that I can. And I think, like I said, there's a lot of money in this market now, just with the price of Bitcoin soaring up to, I think it's almost at 12,000 while we're talking here. Let's see here, 11,000. Well, it's in 11,500 right now. So that's off of Coinbase. But there's so much money to be made out there, and there's so much money that has been made, and it's all in cryptos. And I think that it's really easy for some of these ICOs to pop up in price and do pretty well. So I hope good things to come.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. Does anybody else have anything to comment on this topic before we move on? No? All right. Very cool. All right. Let's go ahead. We've actually cleared 1,000 live viewers now. Oh, Evgeny, did you have something?
Yeah, on the crypto regulation and ICOs. It's really, I think, comes down to the value, right, that each ICO or each technology brings to the market, right, and quantifying that value accurately. And sometimes it's very hard to do, but at least it should be reasonably, comfortable that there is a value or utility behind whatever protocol or whatever technology does. And crypto regulation, in fact, is also utility, right? Like this problem has market solutions, right? And securitization actually, as you know, Vortex, it helps that, right? So for crypto regulate or any type of government regulation is really dependent on two things. It's judicial, like a judges. That's how they can, they regulate through judicial system or judge orders for enforcement and recovery. Those are two basic functions. And then through regulatory bodies, that oversee different markets or different, areas or functions. So those are two arms, that the government or sovereignty uses. And the truth is that both arms are not effective for crypto, right? Like that is unregulatable by nature, because whatever judge says, Bitcoin is one way, it may never be, it's like almost like it's above sovereign, right? In that sense. And then regulator, what can he do? There's a lot, like they all talk, they meet, they have no clue what's going on. True, but it's like they cannot do anything. That's just a fundamental problem, right? However, by bringing crypto via securitization inside the sovereignty and creating a derivative, which is kind of links to that, hopefully one-to-one or direct reserves to that crypto, all of a sudden you can regulate it because the judge can freeze the depository receipt on the crypto, right? And there's usually, like in our case, for example, there is third-party administrator that they can call and whatever fire or whatever, revoke their license, and they manage all the company, right? So they manage the bank accounts and all of that on behalf of the note holders in our case, right? So if you do it properly, right, and you bring it in, all of a sudden you have like a new legal market, new clean market, a market that is completely within the framework of KYC and MLM, because you can sell whatever, and declare, and it's within the framework. So the bad guy would never want to convert into Bitcoin global node because they will freeze, so you'd be mad to do that. However, good guy that wants to pay taxes at the at the tax level of BVI or whatever his tax structure is will, right? So I think next year we will see that a little bit as well as securitization starts developing, hopefully with us or with some other guys that are working on it, and should also create a new, almost like a new market for crypto assets or digital assets that are like they're packaged in a different format, right?
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, I'm hoping that we can advance in those type of areas as well. So, I mean, especially since this kind of stuff is going off the rails right now, there's going to be a few people that get hurt, like Tezos, like you mentioned, and things like that. So, we hope that we can figure this out. But does anybody else have anything else to comment on this? Austin or William? Before we go on? Okay. William? No? Okay. Very cool. All right, guys, let's go on. I have a couple more questions here I want to ask you guys before we go. We've got about 20 minutes left or so. I'll just start with William. William, what do you see? Let me ask you, what is the most exciting project that you see from your perspective over there, down there in Barbados, you say you were?
We're a group of islands in the Caribbean, Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, Aruba, St. Martin, the westerly islands, and we all have our own central banks. And we, in terms of, because I work at in the ICT department, and we sponsor each other every year, and we meet and we talk about different technologies throughout the last 2 years. I actually introduced Ripple and Hyperledger and Ripple for the last 3 or 4 years, and then I actually presented in one of the conferences that we had here. But out of this, what in Barbados BIT is doing, they're digitizing very soon. They're going to digitize their Barbados dollar, or are actually doing it already. But that's going to go live soon. And there's the project that we're looking at. It's more like a brainstorming session that we're working on. It's mostly what I tend to call it is from a helicopter view and a very tall, from far away kind of view. But it's a 21st century e-commerce. How do you improve it? And there's actually three pillars to this. There's the merchant processor, the BitPays of the world, the Coinbase. They will provide, and that's what Bit is doing in Barbados as well, is the ability to provide the customers with a wallet that they will have two balances. They'll have the fiat balance, and then we'll have the crypto balance, and any other type of balance there, and including their own, if they digitize their own coin, they'll have that too. And they'll be able to move from their bank account into crypto, purchase it, go to the merchant. The merchant will accept those crypto coins. We'll tell them, hey, like BitPay says, you want to keep crypto or you want to keep fiat? And they'll say, oh, no, I don't trust this stuff. Just give me fiat. And the merchant will transfer that. So that requires regulation. It requires banking relationships. That's the merchant. That's our first pillar. The second pillar is these banks, since every country has multiple banks, just like in the States, they have the users, customers are in different accounts in different banks. So they have to transfer from one bank to another. So it's basically the ACH, the RTGS kind of system. So that also is kind of like a back end, and that could be done with something like Ripple or something like Hyperledger, or maybe a Bitcoin version of the same thing. And so that's the kind of like also replacing the SWIFT network to transfer between banks beyond the borders of the country. So if you want to go to another, let's say from Trinidad to Barbados, you're gonna have to settle using the SWIFT network. SWIFT is working with their own version of that blockchain. We are looking at this blueprint to have the use of smart contracts to do the same thing, but if it's got to be a very good smart contract. We can't be doing this on because I see it as this is code that should be used like in a nuclear plant, so it can't fail. This is exactly the same thing. You have to have code that is verified, it's peer review, it's solid. And the last part is the possibility of a lot of central banks. Gabriel talked last week in Tech Beach in Jamaica, but he mentioned, every central bank, every currency will be digitized. Every fiat currency will be digitized. So that's the part that the central banks will then explore the ability to, okay, let me grab, say, 5% of my fiat supply of currency for my local currency and make it digital. That speeds things up because now you have another player, it's all digital, that will work in this wallet to work with the merchant processors and speed things up, transferring from one country to another, using smart contracts to settle these two, let's call them swaps between countries. And we have those, but those swaps are all, written down on paper, and it's trusting, I trust this bank, you trust that bank. Well, this is the same idea, but having a federation, for example, which is a permission blockchain where the central bank. And the reason we're looking at or the reason that the Caribbean is so strong in this is that it's a geographic location where you have all these countries that share more or less the same culture, if you want to call it. It's a Caribbean culture. We're very friendly to each other in terms of historically. We have a lot of benefits that we bring into that we can't share right now because we're losing our banking relationship with the state because of the money laundering and all that stuff. So, we want to trade with each other, but we can't. So it's kind of like a petri dish where you can do all these tests and then see the results, see how it works. So I see this is a promising place to start, and it's something that you can, once you're successful with a blueprint that works. I mean, you don't want to build a house without having.
Oh, you muted yourself. William, sorry, you muted yourself there.
Okay, so this petri, this test could also expand if we make it right. It could expand. Okay, let's include the central banks of the Singapore or the central bank of the Philippines, or move into Australia. I mean, they can pitch in. It doesn't matter. I mean, it applies to a small central bank in the Caribbean as well as it applies to the Federal Reserve. I mean, it doesn't. So that's what we have to be looking at. It's more like, where can we have a proof of concept that we can show the world? And this is what we're looking at. So I'm very excited about what we're doing in the Caribbean. So they're going to be good news next year. So this is going to be, we could become the next example of the world in terms of central bank transfers and stuff like that, settling and using smart contracts and all that. So very exciting.
Very interesting, very interesting. All right, let's go with Evgeny next. Let me ask you then, what is the most exciting project to you then right now that you're seeing?
let me just add to what we would said about Fed, and I'll try to answer your question. I think what you touch on central banks, it's like the question, right? Because at the end of the day, Vortex, I wrote a book about like this cryptocurrency stuff. And in this book, I say that this is the first time in the history of humanity where we could actually separate the currency into two functions via a token, right? Because there are two functions to money, and that's store of value, right? Or purchasing power, the safety of your purchasing power, and container of exchange, which is also needed by economy because the bread maker that makes good bread needs to be compensated via container of exchange, right? So all of a sudden, technologically, we can separate them out, right? Via digital currency, or two digital currencies, right? Or three, or whatever, user-generated digital currencies, right? It will proliferate. And it's so cool as that happens, even in a smaller form, because there will be so much value that will be unlocked from that, in so many sorts of ways. But particularly, for example, by separating out just the two functions, all of a sudden, the transparency comes where you say, okay, wait, if it's a container of exchange and you're not using it, you're like a Scrooge McDuck, swimming in those containers of exchange, you should pay tax. It's like a wagon that should work, right? Because then you have to like really control supply and demand in different economies and try to make sure that the bread maker that makes really good bread, it makes a lot of it, and and certainly not stopped by people not having the money, right? If they want to buy his bread. So, and then all of a sudden you have like a tax to that, right? Which is not a premium to the capital, right? Because capital is a resource of economics, right? It's just the same as labor, same as land, same as mineral resources, that we're subsidizing for some reason with interest rates, right? But maybe we shouldn't, right? Maybe we should, if you separate them out, and then if you separate the store of value and you can book gold to it or whatever, just make it really stable, so it doesn't not lose purchasing price parity, and tax, if you want to switch from one to another, tax. There are many things that will come out of it, out of this technological revolution, right? In many ways in the monetary systems.
Absolutely. I like to call it a global financial renaissance. is what I like to call it, because it's just happening all over the world. All this absolute amazing experimentation and innovation. So let's go ahead and go with Austin. What do you think, Austin? Is any comment on the discussion so far? And what do you think is the most exciting thing that's happening out there? Oh, you're muted. Sorry, Austin, you're muted.
Hold on. There we go. Now you can hear me. So there's just a ton of money coming into this marketplace, and I think that we have a ton more to come into this marketplace. I think that one thing that's going to be very interesting is when institutions and banks, like William was talking about, actually start to use blockchain and start to pump the prices up. I think that over talking about ETFs and traders, I think the big banks are actually going to be who determine where Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies will go, like what valuation they'll actually get. If we do get to $1 trillion or 7 trillion or 70 trillion, those are likely possibilities. And so yeah, that's my comments.
Yeah, I just see so many exciting things out there, but really, to me, mostly, as I've stated on the show again a few times, all the exciting stuff to me is happening in Bitcoin. There's just so many exciting things happening with Mimblewimble, with these technologies, and then now there's these bulletproofs for confidential transactions, and then we got the Lightning Network, and so I'm just hoping that this kind of technology will really take off to where we don't have to worry too much about things like centralization. We won't have to worry too many things about fees and things like that, and just all of these projects can really just mature. Because right now, if you want to get into the space, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, or whatever, it's so early that we're still building the tools, we're still building the infrastructure and the foundation for this type of new software applications, and for this whole new stack. We're building a whole new stack is what we're doing, and of money, and so it's going to take a little time. And I just encourage everybody to check it out. And if this is your thing, if programming is your thing, please go ahead and go in there and do your best, because there's so many projects that need your help. I try to tell people that, look, if you're looking to get into the space, if you're looking to get into Bitcoin or crypto, just do what you do, but do it with Bitcoin. There's so many things, so if you're a musician, make some music about Bitcoin, right? If you're a programmer, get into that way. If you're a graphic designer, great. If you're a manager, we need everything. We need everything in right now. We're just looking for it all. So very, very, very exciting space. And I guess we can see a little bit of a drop in the Bitcoin price right now. But oh well. Let's go to Austin real quick. I like to see, Austin is a trader, and I was wondering if maybe Austin, if you could just take a few minutes, 2-3 minutes or whatever, and share your screen and let us know what you think about the price right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me jump into sharing the screen here and look at the price here. So we actually did have a little bit of a drop here. The important thing to know about Bitcoin and price drops in Bitcoin is that they can be timed, and they actually can be an opportunity for you guys to multiply your Bitcoin. What I've been doing is, every time that there's one of these 25 to 30% or even 40% drops, they've happened 5 times this year. If we go all the way back into January here, this drop was literally a 40% pullback, and then the price tripled. The next time that it had a drop was June of 2017 right here. We had a 40% pullback, and then back to 1800, and then we tripled all the way up here. And then we had a price here at September 5,000. We had a 27% pullback down to this $3,000 level, and then it more than doubled up to here. Here again, we had I think this is a 26% pullback here from high to low, 7,900 to 5,500, and then the price doubled again up to 11,500. We did have a really strange, volatile day right here. I don't know if I can include that yet or not, because of the fact that Bitcoin's price just but it did have a 26% pullback in just this one day from high to low. And then obviously we're on a run up a little bit higher. Now, what I like to watch is money flow and price volume, and this indicator right here, which is a stochastics RSI. It basically kind of shows us when we're a little over exhausted on the uptrend or when we're oversold as well. So it's kind of nice to use this. Now, it doesn't always work. Sometimes when it gets oversold here, it sells off some more. And this is what you call being embedded. Sometimes it gets embedded at the top though, and then it runs higher. So right now we actually kind of look like we're almost in an embedded move right here, although the volume's drying out. So, being between 12,000 and 10,000, I think for the end of January is a high probability. But if we keep having all these people that are opening accounts at Coinbase and all these exchanges just flooding more money into Bitcoin, we can break these rules really easily, these standard trading rules, and that's why we are in a hyperbolic move upwards. But look at how much volume we used to do and how much has came into the marketplace. You can just tell where the price is going there. With that. Now, I also like to look at this too to kind of help me with prices, and this is the Bitcoin difficulty chart, and this shows actually the algorithm and how difficult it is to mine per day, and what the Bitcoin difficulty is at has actually been very, very correlated with price movements. And we actually are taking I think 11% drop here coming up soon. So I'm interested to see if that does correlate into in a drop into Bitcoin. Maybe when the CME futures do come out, there might be some traders that haven't had access to Bitcoin and they don't really understand the technology of Bitcoin and how to use a wallet or an address, but they might understand futures markets and how to go into a futures account and buy some puts on Bitcoin and play a downward move. So by the end of 2008 or 2017, we could be up to 16,000. We could have another one of these double moves very easily. But there's also a lot of people that are getting scared with the CME futures and institutional traders and hedge funds actually being able to put short positions on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. So that's that's what's going on in the charts for you.
Awesome. Very interesting. Thanks so much, Austin, for that. Did you guys have any want to comment on that at all before we close out the show?
Yeah, I do actually.
Buckle up.
Buckle up, people. All right, Evgeny, go ahead.
Yeah. Can you just pull up that chart? That was a really cool chart. I just want to comment on the previous blip, right? Because charts are charts, but we all know what happened with Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin, right?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Austin. Pull up the chart.
Let's pull that back, right? So when it dropped to whatever, like it dropped below 6,000, right? At which point, for example, we bought a lot, because it was a coordinated attack on Bitcoin network. I mean, let's call it what it is, right? All timed perfectly, right? all of a sudden, right? So the resilience from the 6,000, I think, is very, very strong. And that's like a show of confidence, right? Of bigger community for kind of philosophy of Bitcoin too, right? Bitcoin Cash has philosophy, but so is Bitcoin. And this is, I think, is very good manifestation of that. And if it, I can easily go to 12,000 for what I matter. But it's true. I think it's a good idea to lock in profits. At least, that's for our trading, algorithms. Because there would be, it might go up, but it will be pullback. You basically you never time it, right? You always average in and average out. So we are selling, and we will sell more as it goes up, and then when it pulled back, we will start buyback, right? But it's it's reaching the limits, right? Short term, especially if futures will not work out as people are expecting. More legal regulatory things come to the light. It's ups and downs, but that's good. I think that's healthy for the market, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
For trading.
Like I said, I would like to grow. I like that we're growing in this kind of stair-step pattern. I don't necessarily know if I like these $2,000 week candles or these $2,700 week candles. I mean, that's some crazy stuff when you compare it with the all-time highs in 2013. Go ahead, Austin.
Trade. That's definitely fun to trade. It's hard to. It's really hard to tell how high Bitcoin's going to go. Honestly, like no matter what. I don't have a crystal ball, but I've been able to capitalize a lot on actually trading back and forth between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, because there's almost these news articles that kind of pop up conspicuously at like China being banned, and then all of a sudden Bitcoin Cash is surging and things like that. So you can also use news related things and the herd mentality kind of to trade, especially Bitcoin and some of these other altcoins too. If all of a sudden 5 to 10 YouTubers are all of a sudden talking about an altcoin, you can go back into the price charts and you can actually see that at that time the price of that cryptocurrency surged and probably more than doubled or tripled, and that's what we can see out of Bitcoin too. With any sort of bad news, we drop all of a sudden. There's all these people that jump out because they're new, and all of a sudden, oh my God, China banned cryptocurrencies. We better drop 30% here, which really isn't that much not that much volume. A lot of people are still holding, and there's just so little orders in the order books that it drops 30%, and then we get some new investors that have been taking the right advice and they've been holding their money for one of these pullbacks. Like I said, it has happened 5 times and this year. So you had 5 times to get in on literally an over 25% pullback and then run up and double, triple your money.
And 5 times, people. 5 times.
That's crazy. Like we're up like 15. You should be up at least 15 times if you've been trading just Bitcoin. If you're just holding Bitcoin, which is a good strategy as well, though, you're up about the same 15 times as well. So that it's okay to hold on to your cryptos. Every time we have these pullbacks, you can expect pretty much that we're going to have some sort of double or triple move. It's just that's the surge of demand that's coming into this market. It's crazy.
I try to tell people you got to hodl. I mean, we got a lot of stuff, a lot of activity coming next year. William, did you have one last thing to say too?
No. Much. It's just this is going to be just interesting in the future, in the next, at least next year. all the new innovations and the new players coming in, and we have to make it so that the regular person in the street can start using it. And there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, from the wallets to just the back end as well. So like you say, Jeffrey, we need to get coders and all kinds of people in the industry to come in and help out.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Just a final comment before we do the outro. You know, it's really interesting because a lot of people, a lot of Bitcoin businesses like Coinbase and BitPay were kind of screaming like, hey, we need to increase the block size in order to facilitate all of these new people. And then we get some surges, and then every single exchange, including Coinbase, goes completely down. And I think there's a big lesson in this, people. I mean, we really have to build out our existing off-chain infrastructure before we can really start worrying about on-chain scaling. We have a lot of work to do just in our onboarding of users and our interfaces and things like that. The infrastructure itself, we can't have our whole industry go down, guys, every time we have a huge surge. So please, if you're a programmer, definitely join this industry. We're going to need you as well. So I just wanted to really emphasize that, because again, guys, look, there's been huge amounts of optimization in Bitcoin. The Bitcoin of today in no way could handle the traffic of the Bitcoin of 2012 could no way handle the Bitcoin traffic that we have today. It just it was not ready, and we continue to optimize it. We continue to there's just so many things in the works that are optimizing this. And now we're going to build the second layer with things like Lightning. So this stuff is all coming. It's going to be huge. And I just want people to understand that, look, there's a whole lot of work that we have to do in the infrastructure off-chain in addition to the on-chain. So you guys, like companies, you do what you do, core developers and core community do what you do, and we will build and scale this industry to ungodly amounts of value. So with that, let's go ahead and say goodbye to our guests and thank them so much. Austin, tell us where can we find you?
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining, and definitely give us those thumbs ups that shares the video more on YouTube. We appreciate that. You can find me on YouTube under Austin Crypto Angler, and I do videos every single day with my current trades and what I'm doing, and also some charts and technical analysis for you guys. So thanks for having me, Vortex.
Awesome, Austin. Thanks so much. Everybody check out his channel. It's got a lot of great stuff. Let's ask Evgeny, where can we find out more about you?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, man. So we have a website, cybertrust.io. We're also doing, as you know, ICO. We're creating CABS, which is a crypto asset-backed securitization token that anybody in the world can use to securitize any types of crypto. We're building a gateway, the first gateway between Ethereum front end and all different currencies and Clearstream, right? Which is an extremely important link, this infrastructure link, and we're tokenizing it, right, guys? Right? It's going to be very exciting. You can reach me out at Telegram, which is at Cybertrust, or join our channel at Cybertrust Bank. And thanks for having me. Thanks.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much, guys. Check out his project. He's got some interesting stuff going on there. Very interesting stuff. Let's ask William. William, where can we find out more about you, sir?
Yes, you can find me at my Twitter handle, William Santiago, and wksit.com is my website. I'll be posting, I'm constantly posting either articles or events that are happening in the region. I think that we're getting ready for big changes coming year. And I thank Vortex for his ongoing support of the community. That's awesome. So thank you for having me, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much, William. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thanks so much for our guests for donating their time and their wisdom to the crowd. I know I very much appreciate it. I hope you guys appreciated their insights and their opinions. Thanks so much for the chat. We had a lot of great conversation. Had to kick a couple trolls, but that's what we call it, the troll box. It's a good time. And so, guys, if you missed it, please check us out in the comments below. We'd love to hear and talk to you more. And again, we will be back here as every Sunday, Sunday at 12 p.m. Pacific live for another episode. So until next time, guys, please keep talking Bitcoin. We'll see you later.
Take care.